If you wish to support the channel on Patreon, please follow the links below and be sure to click the bell so you don't miss any of my videos. In the world of modern retro and nostalgia driven new games, there's few things that people chase more than the feel of an old school beat 'em up. Something about it is just infectious, deceptively simple on paper, but it feels so good. There have been many efforts to try and replicate the likes of Streets of Rage, or Final Fight, or Double Dragon, or whichever brawler's your particular poison, and the results have been, mixed. And here's the latest. Rage Injustice, a brand new old school beat 'em up published by Team 17 and developed by Makin Games, essentially one person, Nick Makin. I've seen the game around a fair bit. It did get a good reception back in Manchester Play Expo last year, and naturally I jumped at the bit to have a chance of reviewing it. So does it bring back the good old beat 'em up days of broken teeth smashed onto the cobblestones? Yes and no. I do get the sense that even when it comes to the core fans of this genre, this isn't a game that everybody's going to love. Rage Injustice is a very specific labour of love for its developer, and it has been for, nearly 7 years. Do keep that in mind if you happen to see any review of it that paints it as a rushed job. It's not, and I don't doubt that every frame of this is as the creator intended. The first rule of making a game is that above and beyond all else, it should be something that you personally enjoy. If you don't like it, then what's the point? This is absolutely what Nick Makin loves, so let's go ahead and examine that. The first and biggest thing about the game is undoubtedly the graphics. I mean, boy, it's been a long time since I've seen a game look like this. Rage Injustice has a 16-bit look, but it's not the usual things people love about 16 bits. Bright colours? Loving the animated pixel sprites? No, this is digitised. It's grimy and diffused, animation purposefully minimal, sprites human. Deceptively enough, this isn't the world of Streets of Rage. This is the world of Pit Fighter and Mortal Kombat. It's the sequel to Guardians of the Hood that no one ever asked for. It's Clay Fighter, Batman Forever, Way of the Warrior. This is those games' evolution. Now personally, I appreciate that a hell of a lot. This really kicks me square in the nostalgia, because I played all of these freaking games to death. Hell, I loved them back then. Now, nostalgia aside, do I actually like the game's art style? Yeah, I do. As far as this long dead style goes, it's as good as it could be, hits all the right notes, and comes with a certain impact that you wouldn't often see in games like this back in the day. But of course, it's not going to be for everyone. If you're not familiar with the style as is, you may well be confused by it, wondering why there seems to be so little in the way of animation. Not to mention, some people just aren't fans of this style to begin with. People will wonder why anyone would choose to bring this style back. Digitised sprites tend to split people down the middle. Either you love them or you hate them, and that was just as true back in 1994 as it is now. Clearly it's something the creator has a lot of affection for, and I do too in a certain twisted kind of way, even if a lot of those games were bad. So I think that's one important thing to note about Rage Injustice. I kind of think the title actually does it a bit of a disservice, because people are going to go into it absolutely expecting a Streets of Rage style game. And really, it's not. Is it inspired by Streets of Rage? Yes. But is it a homage to it? No. The game's heart is in another place. If you cast your mind towards games like Pit Fighter, then you'll probably have a lot more chance of getting what the game is going for. It is kind of this strange tribute to early mid-90s mediocrity, but it will pull your strings if you're, 32 years old. Mind, there are certain things about the game that aren't quite so appealing. Honestly, I couldn't help but be a little disappointed at how the game actually played, especially as I got further into it. You get 3 characters of course, options for punching, kicking, chucking and special attacks, along with useful dash and sidestep moves. This works out okay, and dealing with regular mobs is generally a lot of fun. There's a lot of weapons to play with as well, and also one of the game's unique aspects, the ability to arrest once an opponent is dazed. Arresting is very handy as it automatically guarantees a health pickup, So after playing for a bit, you're going to want to try engineering as many arrests as possible, which you can do through partial combos and careful use of the special, although this does deplete your health bar. I found that throws tend to often be useful when it comes to dazing enemies in the end. So, the actual levels for the most part are solid enough, but there is a distinct lack of variation in that they're all simple left to right affairs, they don't particularly stand out in regards to setting, and there's not much in the way of change-ups. No elevators or anything like that, which is a bit of a shame. Where things really fell down for me was with a lot of the bosses. Some of them are really frustrating indeed. The pimp, the leather biker. There's a real frustrating section where both these guys come next to each other and they're both bosses who have these long invincible attacks and constantly retreat to the background and leave you fighting mobs. They both take about 5 minutes to kill. Now I note that they can be killed quicker, if you're bloody amazing at the game that is. But if you're looking for a quick casual experience, then sections like this may well become a bit of a stopgap, especially seeing as these bosses become regular enemies and appear a fair bit throughout the game. I find that for a game like this, Rage & Justice does end up being a little long. I would say that on average these games are best when they keep it under an hour, if not close to half an hour, and this one, certainly first few times through, is going to be well over that. And it's only because some enemies really do slow things to a crawl, which is a shame. It makes the game feel like a chore, as even the most satisfying things like a dash attack that slings a stick of dynamite back into an enemy's face become more and more routine. The unremarkable music too doesn't help matters. The addition of a brawl survival style mode does help, as does a whole checklist of tasks to complete for every stage, and the addition of various personalities to the enemy list. I mean, if you ever wanted to beat the crap out of me, you can do it in stage 1, but there's a lot of shit to go through. Rage & Justice is available for a crisp tenner on Steam, right, which I feel is a good price, enough to be a tempter. I would definitely recommend picking it up if it went on sale, for sure. As I say, it is a bit of a labour of love. I'm not sure that the creator made it specifically with mass appeal in mind, which isn't exactly a bad thing. Some people just flat out aren't going to get and jive with the art style as much as others like myself do. The only annoying thing is that such things wouldn't matter much if the game itself was cracking, and unfortunately Rage & Justice does fall a bit short of that. It's fun in doses, but really freaking frustrating in others. Bye for now. For this video I'd like to thank the following: Adam Schaefer, Alex Stocco, Alexander Jazeri, Andrew Dalton, Andy Capt, Daniel Briggs, Daniel David Taylor, Dustin Cooper, Gary Pinkett, George Newton, Grafham Blackpool, Ian Roberts, James Idd, James Loveridge, Jason Durso, Jason Goy, Jason Stevens, Jace Alexander, Josh Jensen, Lee Norris, Martin Pataki, Morton Scunnin, Nanette McCrone, Nicholas Tristan, Olaf Allbean, Peter Jack, Peter Sidorn, Phil Tapwog, Piotr Margel, Boggy Southmaid, Rachel Maxwell, Romeo, Ryan Burford, Sammy Lee, Scott Coulter, Seth Robinson, Simon Gulliver, Stephen Warner, Tanyo J, Yurka Operator, and Zach Roach.